So if customers don't leave because they're unhappy, then why do they leave? Well, it turns out there are two fascinating paradoxes that demonstrate that this is the wrong question. I think the reason we have such a hard time getting our hands around churn is that we start with the wrong question. Questions are important. If you don't have the right question, you're not going to get the right answer. And the question we start with in this case is, why do customers leave? It makes intuitive sense. I mean, obviously, if customers leave, we'd like to know why they left so we can solve those issues and then fewer customers will leave. But I actually think this question is profoundly flawed. And to explain why, I need to introduce you to two very strange paradoxes about the customer relationship. I encountered the first paradox several years ago. It was from a company called Sun Microsystems. They were a computer mainframe manufacturer in Silicon Valley. They were big in the 90s. And they were studying why some customers leave and other customers stay. And they did a very simple exercise where they organized their customers into two groups. And the first group were customers who'd had negative experiences, problems, issues, etc. And the second group were customers who hadn't had negative experiences. But one thing they did was simply to measure how long the customer stayed. And what they found shocked them, which is that the customers who'd had negative experiences actually stay longer on average than customers who don't have negative experiences. That's interesting. And obviously it goes against our core thinking, which is that customers leave when they have negative experiences or when they're dissatisfied. And that's not what they were seeing at all. Well, this piqued my interest because it actually went along with some experiences I had been having in my practice with my customers. So the second paradox was from doing exit analyses. This is where you go out and you survey your churned customers and you ask them why they leave, and they give you their reasons, and you bring them back and kind of prioritize them and pick the biggest reasons, and you go crush those down, solve those problems. And what invariably happens? Nothing. I've actually done this over and over again, and I've never been able to reduce churn to any appreciable degree. And I've worked with a lot of companies who've had the same experience. So what does that mean? How do we explain that? Because obviously, if customers leave for reasons, then addressing the reasons would reduce churn, but it doesn't. And that was the second paradox. Both of these paradoxes challenged the core beliefs that we bring to this, which are framed nicely by the question, why do customers leave? And like I said in my last video, I really like to get into the data. And so we decided to test to see if this is true. We have this huge data set, probably the biggest of its kind in the world, with all this detail about customers. And so we created two groups. In the first group, we created using support ticket data, are customers with negative experiences, and the second group were customers without negative experiences. And what you'd expect, obviously, is customers with no negative experiences would have a long lifespan, and customers with negative experiences would have a short lifespan. But this is what we actually see. And not only do the positions reverse, but we can see that customers with negative experiences have twice the average customer lifespan as the group that didn't have negative experiences. So what's going on here? Am I suggesting that negative experiences cause customers to stay longer? Of course not. What it does first and foremost is to undermine the idea that customers leave because of negative experiences. Customers don't leave because they have a reason to leave. They leave when they no longer have a compelling reason to stay. So this is what's wrong with the question. The premise of the question is that customers leave for reasons, and so it narrows our focus and limits us to only looking for reasons, negative experiences. And as my mother told me, if you look for the negative, you will always find it. And that's the problem. We are not seeing the bigger picture. We're not seeing the other things that are going on in the customer relationship. And in particular, what this prevents you from seeing are the reasons customers stay. That's what's wrong with the question. It's not why do customers leave? It's why do customers stay? And I actually think this is the most important question in business. It changes our view. It expands our vision to see there are many more things going on in the customer relationship than just the qualitative aspect of their experience. And so let's ask the question, why do customers stay? Well, everybody knows why customers stay. because they're happy. Happy customers stay and unhappy customers leave. Well, if you haven't seen my last video, please click on that and watch and then come back, because in that video, I demonstrate that actually customer satisfaction has nothing to do with customer retention. There's no statistical relationship between customer satisfaction and how long customers stay. So when we say we know customers stay because they're happy, that's actually wrong. There's another factor. And again, watch the video. We talk about what that is. It's customer results. Customers come to get results and they stay to get results. That's the fundamental theme underlying customer retention. So how do we explain this strange paradox where customers who have negative experiences stay longer than customers who don't have negative experiences? What we're seeing here is a signal for engagement. Let's start with the intuition. Which customer is more likely to run into trouble? A customer who's trying really hard and implementing the whole solution and for whom it's really important, or a customer who isn't trying very hard? Obviously, the harder a customer tries, the more they engage, the more they put into implementing, the more likely they are to run into trouble, problems, limitations, etc. And at the same time, that's the customer, obviously, who's most likely to ultimately succeed and retain. So that explains this connection between problems and long-term success and retention. It's the customers who engage the most, who are the most likely to succeed, and also the most likely to have issues. So this is really important. That means that engagement is at the center of this, not satisfaction, not positive versus negative experiences. The other way to think about this is from your own experience. So think of a customer that you've worked with that's having negative experiences, is frustrated, and yet keeps renewing. You can see that those are the customers that are the most engaged, whereas I'm sure you can think of other customers you've had, probably many, who never really got into it that much. And this makes sense out of why a customer on their way out would say what a great experience it's been. You see, they haven't actually had a negative experience. There's actually a relationship there between the negative experiences and the likelihood for success. So I want to share a customer story where this idea really clicked for me. It was several years ago. I had what I still consider to be the most difficult customer I ever had. And it was a big tech company, name brand, Silicon Valley. And I was over there at least once a week in their offices. And over the course of a few years, I became extremely frustrated with this customer. They were impossible to satisfy, and they were constantly complaining. And I'm ashamed to admit that in a meeting, I even got to a point where I said, hey, if you guys hate us so much, if this is such a bad experience, why don't you just cancel? And the customer got a puzzled look on their face and looked at me and said, why would we cancel when we get such phenomenal results? And my first reaction was to feel ashamed, because why did I ever think it was about anything else? This really helped me understand what's going on. Our customers don't buy our products for the pure pleasure of using it. They need a result, they expect a result, and if we produce a result, that's the primary driver of retention. One of my favorite quotes is from Theodore Levitt, who said, people don't want to buy a quarter-inch drill, they want a quarter-inch hole. And I think that perfectly captures this idea. And from all these experiences, my own challenges, the paradoxes, the research, I ultimately came to understand that almost everything we think we know about customer success is wrong. And this new idea that the fundamental driving dynamic of customer retention is customer results changed everything for me. And it ultimately led me to formulate 3 fundamental laws of customer retention. And the first law is customers stay to get results. It's results that are at the heart of the customer relationship. And embracing that, understanding that, really expanded my vision to see way beyond the qualitative experience and the negative experiences, to see what were those compelling reasons that customers stay. So I figured out the first law, which is customers stay to get results. It's a great starting point, but actually it just led me to another fascinating question, which is, if customers stay to get results, then why do customers get results? Or more specifically, why do some customers get results? Because they don't all get results, do they? And that's where we'll start in the next video.